IT band pain, marathon training, prevention tip number one, positive mindset that IT band pain is 100% preventable. You just need to take the right steps to address why you got it in the first place. Was it a strength issue? Was it a training issue? Was it a terrain issue? Were you doing too much downhill running? It is essential that you have a positive mindset that you can train for 26.2 miles and you won't have IT band pain this time. You are not preordained to get IT band pain every time you try and train for a marathon. I also want you to know that even if you do get pain, this is not an injury that is going to be catastrophic, meaning your IT band will not snap off the bone and tear. That is not a thing. So you will not do any long-term damage to your knee. And no, you will not get arthritis in your knee if you have some pain on the outside of your knee that is consistent with IT band syndrome. It will get better and it doesn't need to come back. That is tip number one in preventing IT band pain during marathon training. Are you a runner who's been frustrated in the past that whenever you try to increase your distance or you increase your speed, you get pain right on the outside of your knee? And it like almost stops you in your tracks. It's sharp. It usually occurs during a long run, and it might even start to feel stiff after sitting for a long period of time at work, or if you're crouching down on the floor, you're going to get up maybe after doing some stretches. And you're worried that it will become worse and it's going to lead to you stop training, and you might even need to take days or weeks off of running, or you're just going to like pray that it's going to go away and one day you're going to be able to run 26.2 miles on your big marathon day. You avoid going to the doctor because they're just going to tell you to stop running. So you start Googling knee pain in runners and you tried ice. You put a strap over your IT band. You maybe even tried some KT tape and you started doing some stretches that, you really probably don't need to keep doing. And what you need to keep doing is actually listening to the injury prevention tips that I'm going to unleash on you for your next marathon training cycle. And in this training, I'm going to unravel really the mystery of how we prevent IT band pain during marathon training. So whether you're about to embark on your first marathon training cycle ever, or if you are a seasoned marathoner, but now you've just been suffering from knee pain the last couple of training cycles, whenever you try to run like that 16 miler, the 18 miler, or the 20 miler in your training plan. And this is the training for you. I've seen so many runners wind up reaching out after they run that 18, that 20 miler, and they get this sharp pain on the outside part of their knee, and then they just stop training and they don't run their marathon. And I really don't want that for you. And honestly, a lot of times we kind of blame age, right? So like age isn't a thing either because you're getting older. This is not just type of injury that comes with the aging process. This is actually 100% preventable. So if this is our first introduction, first off, welcome. I'm Dr. Duane Scotti. I'm a running physical therapist. I'm a run coach. I'm an educator. I'm the founder of Spark Healthy Runner and creator of the Healthy Runner podcast. And my mission is to preserve the health and longevity of runners everywhere by allowing them to get stronger, run faster, and enjoy lifelong injury-free running. And if you're interested in this IT band pain topic, then you can learn more with our complimentary Spark Healthy Runner free resource on how to run without IT band syndrome. That really talks about all the basics of what IT band syndrome is and how to actually treat it. Today is going to be all about prevention, but that resource, I really give you the specific tactics on how to run faster, further, and without stubborn IT band pain. And they've really been the true tried and tested strategies that have kept all the runners that I work with on a one-on-one basis running during their recovery and finally being able to say like, peace out, IT band syndrome for good. So if you don't want, to deal with this pain anymore. And honestly, if you don't have actually the time to listen to the rest of these injury prevention strategies I'm going to share with you today, then make sure you click the link wherever you're listening to this in the show notes to download your free ebook on IT band syndrome. Just go to learn.sparkhealthyrunner.com and get your free resource. So in this training, guys, I really want to share 6 steps or 6 tips to prevent IT band pain during marathon training. And that's why I'm wearing my 26.2 marathon shirt. So this was from the Cape Cod Marathon last fall. And if you guys stick around long enough for this training, I'm going to share with you the single best strategy that will help you finish marathon training so you don't actually have to drop out of your goal race. Trust me, this has been something that I've tried with over 10 runners now this past year during marathon training and has worked wonders. So I already shared with you guys tip number 1 on injury prevention for IT band syndrome during marathon training, and that was the mindset. Right. So having a positive mindset that IT band pain is 100% preventable. So what you need to do is learn, you need to plan, and you need to prevent. So the learning takes place today, right? And then marking out a structured plan on how you're going to actually get to those steps, implementing the strategies we're going to talk about today. And that is going to prevent this from coming back during your next marathon training. So tip number 2 is going to be strength training. And it is specifically strengthening the glutes, right? The glutes are king. The glutes are what makes everything work for us as runners. Honestly, it is so key at preventing so many of the common injuries that we see in runners. And this is definitely one of them. So IT band syndrome, if there was 1 or 2 muscles that you need to really strengthen in order to prevent IT band syndrome, they are actually not the muscles around the knee. So it is not your quads. It is not your hamstrings. It is your hip muscles. As Shakira says, hips don't lie, right? So it is your glutes, specifically the glute max, as well such a key muscle, the glute medius, your side hip muscle, which really prevents the number one contributor that I see when I analyze running videos of all the clients I work with is what we call a hip drop with running, or you're collapsing. There's this collapsing pattern. How do we prevent collapsing with running is by strengthening the glutes. And the first thing that we need to do is to activate. How do we activate? So you just can't get into doing deadlifts and being like, I heard deadlifts are the best exercise, strengthen the glutes. No, if you are not activating them properly, then that is not going to work. You're going to probably use your hamstrings, your adductors more than you need to, and not actually strengthen the glutes. So the best, single best exercise to strengthen the glutes is the fire hydrant exercise. So I have a great instructional video on how to do that on my YouTube channel, and I'm going to also link it in our Strong Glute Guide ebook. So you can get the instructional videos for the fire hydrant exercise, which is going to really activate the glute max. Excellent exercise. This is a new one. If you listen to any of my other trainings on IT band syndrome in the past, definitely didn't mention the fire hydrant exercise because I'm learning and growing in my journey as a runner, as a run coach, as a running physical therapist as well. And this was something that I got brand new at conference this year based upon the literature and implemented myself. Loved how it felt. Actually, I had sore glutes and I like strengthen my glutes all the time. And implemented with many of the clients that I work with on a one-on-one basis. So big fan of this exercise being the single best exercise to activate the glute max. And then also, I have a great instructional video for you as a runner to actually strengthen the abductors and the other hip supporting structure. So the ones that stabilize our hip and help keep our pelvis level, because when we run, we're always on one leg. And because of that, if you have any weakness in your glute muscles, then when you're on one leg, that hip drops, knee goes in. Hip drops, knee goes in. That causes pain on the outside part of your knee, right over the IT band, right on the outside of your knee, and causes that sharp pain. So to get rid of the sharp pain in the knee, let's correct up at the hip, prevent that collapse. All right. So I will link that below, but it's basically 5 simple mini band must do exercise for running. If you want to literally type that into YouTube and the Spark Healthy Runner YouTube video library, then you will see that video pop up. It is a fantastic series of exercise that I give a lot of the runners I work with, either from a prevention standpoint or as they're even like tapering in marathon training and we're like decreasing the amount of strengthening that someone's doing. This is a great exercise circuit for you to do to really keep those hip muscles activated and working as you are tapering in your marathon journey. Or if you are brand new to strength training, that's a great place to start. Like, fantastic. Do the fire hydrant, do the 5 simple mini band exercises. If you do that 3 times a week, honestly, you are going to be in really, really good shape. And if you've never done strength training during marathon training, like, that might be enough, honestly, just to get you over the hump of either staying injury free or actually feeling stronger during marathon training and running a lot faster. So if you just started there are definitely progressions for strength training that we've talked about in other trainings, but that's a great starting point for you. So that is, out of honestly all of these 6 tips I'm going to share with you today, if there's one that I really want you to implement, it is that one, because the literature is clear on how we treat IT band syndrome. It's strengthening, not stretching, and how we prevent it. So if there's anything, guys, that you're going to implement out of these 6, please, please, please make it strength training, and specifically the glutes. So those hip muscles. All right. Tip number 3, it's your run plan, guys. And it is your marathon training plan needs to be progressive in terms of mileage, speed, so the pace that you're running, and especially for this condition, IT band syndrome, elevation, meaning not too much aggressive downhill running if you are not used to downhill running, and it's appropriate for your current level of fitness and not your arbitrary random goal time that you pulled out of your head and said, I want to run a sub 4-hour marathon. Trust me, I've been there. I did that for my first marathon. Did I run a sub 4 marathon? No, I did not, because I made so many training mistakes because I didn't know how to train for a marathon correctly as an adult onset runner. Hence, what has led me to where I am today and sharing this information with you. So you need to train for the level that you're at. And if you are a beginner marathoner, meaning you've never run a marathon before, even if you are a well-established half marathoner, which I was before I ran my first marathon, I think it was probably anywhere in the ballpark of 18 to 20 half marathons I raced, and not just like finished and like ran for fun, like raced those half marathons. So I considered myself a pretty seasoned half marathoner and felt like I really was able to capitalize on how to run them properly, how to train for them properly. But in that marathon, I did not run my sub 4-hour marathon goal. So make sure that you are running the paces that you should be running and keeping all of your easy runs easy, and you're not running them too fast. That's like the biggest mistake that most beginner marathoners make. And your mileage, you cannot have any significant spikes in training load. So if you've never run, let's say 30 miles per week, maybe it's 40 miles per week, depending upon the plan that you're using, like, you need to go up in stages and then make sure that you have cutback weeks. So you don't always just keep going up the stairs, and then you peak at your goal race right before your race. Like, we need to go up 3 steps forward, you go 1 step down. 3 steps forward, 1 step down. So every 3 to 4 weeks in that marathon training cycle, you need to take a cutback week in terms of your weekly volume and the long run, which is going to be most important, because that is the run that's going to put the most stress on your body. That is the run that is most likely associated with the onset of IT band syndrome. So it is usually, as I mentioned before, that 14, 16, 18 miler that we start to get runners who feel this pain on the outside part of your knee. And you need to make sure the run plan is progressive and you're not doing what I like to call runner error, right? So we're our own worst enemy sometimes. And if you don't have a coach that's kind of keeping you in check, and the weather is really nice outside and you're like, this is a great spring day, let me go out there and do 2 or 3 extra miles. I have the time. I'm not working today, right? Have you ever done that? Right? Yeah, you're probably shaking your head right now. I know. I see you guys. I see you. Um, I know. I know the thought process, but you have to really hold yourself accountable to not be your own worst enemy and kind of do things like that. Because if your body isn't trained for those demands, then that's when tissues like the IT band start to get inflamed, irritated, and start to get pain on the outside of your knee. And you don't want that stopping you in your tracks, right? Let's be honest. We want to go out there and run. We want to go out there and train. And marathon training is no joke. Like, it deserves a serious amount of respect, right? We need to respect marathon training so much more than half marathon training. Like I always say, it's not only double the mileage, but it's almost like 3x, 4x the amount of stress to your body during training and even during the race. And it requires multiple attempts for us to get better at the marathon distance. Just like for me, I'm 4 marathons in now into my marathon journey that I'm on. And each one I've gotten faster, right? Each one I learn a little bit more and I take those lessons and share them back with you in my race recap. So if you want to get my latest race recap from the Dopey Challenge, in which I conquered that 48.6 miles and ran the Disney Marathon, or the Cape Cod Marathon, I did a full episode on those race recaps where you can learn a little bit more about kind of my journey and some of the lessons learned for marathon training. But tip 3 is really the run plan. And I don't want you to overlook that, because that is probably the most common really reason why IT band syndrome sparks up. It's like just sparks, and then it just runs rampant, and it's hard to get rid of once you kind of really have this training error. So you need to be disciplined if you're not working with a coach. And the other thing I'll add to that, guys, is I know a lot of you like to download the free plans off the internet. I did for my first marathon. Totally get it. Those don't account for changes in your lifestyle, stress levels, sleep, really stressful time periods in your life. You need to modify that plan. And then it also doesn't account for things like vacation, right? And, you missing some runs because work was crazy. Your daughter graduated. You had to fly out somewhere, right? Like all those things in life, you need to modify that plan. And I see it all too often where runners maybe, let's say, take a week off. And in normal circumstances, that's not terrible, but you don't account for that week off either before or after, and you just literally have the plan and you're like, well, it says I should go for a 16-mile run today because my marathon's 5 weeks away, 6 weeks away, and 60 miles on the plan. I got to do it, even though I missed my 14 miler and my longest long run has been 12. Like if you go from 12 to 16, then you're going to be at a higher risk for developing IT band syndrome, especially if you're doing that and you have a lot of hills in your area and you're going to be doing a lot of downhill running. So those are the things that really kind of cause this pain to kind of spark up. So we want to avoid those. All right. And it's preventable, right? That's what we're talking, injury prevention. And I'm just so passionate about this because my whole career as a running physical therapist was based upon treating, right? And it's like sick care model. It's like you get IT band syndrome and let's see how quick we can fix you and hopefully get you back to running, right? And that was like an active approach I used to have. You're going to go to some medical providers who see IT band syndrome, see, oh, you did this running. Oh, just stop running and you won't have IT band syndrome. So maybe your body isn't meant to be a runner. Like, have you ever heard that? Like, no, that's garbage. That does not work. That is not kosher in my mind whatsoever. Because these are preventable, guys. All right. That's what I'm sharing. So hopefully it's helpful so far. So let's get to tip number 4. It is our nutrition. bucket. And if you guys have been following along for a while, you can see how I theme this out, right? You can see that I theme this out in our 6 steps to growing in our running journey. And it just honestly, as I was just brainstorming this on my car ride today, I was like, you know what? I have like these special considerations for IT band syndrome. And you know what? It kind of works in the framework of our 6 steps to growing our running journey. So, nutrition, we need to fuel early and often before, during, and after your runs. Don't run fasted. Yes, I'm talking to you. You might have signed up for a marathon because you thought, I need to lose some weight. You know what? I got to lose weight and I ain't going to eat more either. I'm going to lose some darn weight. I'm going to take those pounds off and I'm going to run a freaking marathon, right? I'm going to show them, right? Like you might be thinking that. The problem is when we run on E, right? It's like driving the car. You never have it running on E without any gas. We are running with our energy stores, our fuel on empty. And running fasted increases your stress hormone, which is called cortisol. And when you have more cortisol, that puts you at an increased risk of injury. So running fasted, first off, doesn't burn fat. In fact, running fasted actually leads to muscle breakdown, which goes against injury prevention tip number 2 for IT band syndrome, which was to strengthen your muscles, strengthen the glutes, right? So it's the exact opposite of what we want to happen in order to prevent IT band syndrome. So please do not run fasted. That does not work. And it is going to lead you open to injury prevention. What will work to have a healthier lifestyle, and if you're looking for weight loss, that will come if you remain consistent with your running, if you remain consistent with your strength training, and those pounds will eventually come off and you're going to stay healthy. So those pounds can't come off if you try to lose a whole bunch of weight in a short amount of time, because most likely you're going to get injured. And then the injury is going to get so bad, you're going to get frustrated and you're going to eventually have to probably stop running, or you're just going to lose all hope, confidence that you can ever be a runner. Your body's not meant to be a runner. You're too old to be a runner, right? Like all the things that you've maybe thought about, or even a doctor might have even told you before, right? You might be thinking all those things. And I'm here to tell you that that is not actually the case. We have runners of all shapes and sizes, all different paces, that are getting outside to enjoy their mental clearing miles, and they're doing it pain-free. So I don't want you to have those beliefs in your head at all, thinking that maybe you can't run a marathon because you're whatever, weight, or you run whatever pace that you run, whether it's 13-minute mile, 15-minute mile, 16-minute mile, right? Like, I don't want you to think that. So total misconception, total fake news. Don't believe that. All right. I don't even know how I got on that little rant there, but my apologies. As you can see, I'm kind of hyped up today. Really passionate, honestly, about talking about this injury prevention topic. So tip 4 was nutrition and not running on empty. Okay, we got to fuel before your runs, we got to fuel during your runs, and we got to fuel after, because that's going to actually help stimulate the recovery process, which leads me, it's like a segue into tip number 5, which is our recovery bucket and how we grow as a runner. And for IT band syndrome specifically, my tip to you is stop stretching the IT band. All right, I said it. Stop stretching the IT band. You probably Googled how to stretch this freaking structure. And I can tell you, I did the same literally in PT school. I was like, okay, 21 years now, right? How in the heck do we stretch this IT band? I was actually working as a strength and conditioning specialist within a gym, working mainly as a personal trainer with clients. And I was like, man, I learned about this IT band. Can we actually stretch this thing? Like, how do we stretch this? I saw like these weird like pictures, and you have to like put your leg behind you. Cause basically whenever we stretch a muscle, guys, we want to go into the opposite motions of what the muscle actually does when it contracts. When it contracts, muscles shorten. So for the IT band, and this is going to get a little too in-depth geeky, but hang with me here, guys. I won't get too complex. The IT band actually brings your leg out to the side. So it's what we call abducts. It actually flexes, kind of brings it in front a little bit. And it actually serves as a minor kind of internal rotator of the hip. So essentially, if we want to stretch the structure, we basically need to extend our hip, bring our knee behind our hip. We need to adduct, so adduct the hip, bring it inward, and we need to actually maintain it in slight external rotation. This is a really hard position to actually maintain. In fact, it is actually one of the hardest positions to actually do a special test that we call the Ober test for the IT band, and to actually do a manual stretch like in the clinic, if you were to have a practitioner stretching it. And in fact, most clinicians do it wrong. And in fact, most of the literature shows it wrong as well. How do I know this, guys? Because I literally wrote the book on it. All right. I am holding up right now my dissertation for my PhD work, which is literally on the iliotibial band length. And I will tell you that we can actually not stretch the structure, because they've actually done cadaver studies that actually look at how much tension it would take to actually get stretching of the IT band structure. So as you can see behind me, this structure is like made up of this thick collagen, and it's a long fibrous structure. It is not really a muscle. The muscle belly is like a small little tiny muscle in the hip, but it's this long fascial structure that is more like connective tissue and is not going to stretch. So my main point to you is we cannot stretch it. So stop trying to. Number one, the stretches are almost nearly impossible to even feel in the right spot. And number two, I don't think it's going to help you. And number three is we need to actually start releasing it. Meaning, how I like to release it is through foam rolling, and not specifically going for the kill right over the IT band on the side. So I really like to do this releasing just in front of the IT band and just behind the IT band, which causes a decompressive effect to the IT band, as opposed to having so much tension on it when you're running. So I found that extremely, extremely helpful. That's a strategy that I learned doing a Graston instrument assisted course way back when, and really applied that to the self techniques that I've been helping runners with through foam rolling. So I have a great instructional video on how to actually do that on my YouTube channel. It's like 7 foam roller exercises for runners. It should be actually starred and highlighted in the like new here, watch these videos, because it is so important. I think all runners should actually be doing those 7 foam roller exercises either before or after their runs. And we've done previous trainings on that topic. So if you want to learn more about that, go check that out. But my tip for you today in how to prevent IT band syndrome is actually start doing that foam rolling, releasing the structure. And if you want to use a lacrosse ball, you want to use your percussion gun, totally cool with that. But the big thing, guys, is do not, please remember this. If you do have IT band pain currently, or you've had a history of it, which you probably have, because that's why you're listening to this, do not rub right on the outside part of the knee where the IT band is. Don't do that. That's just going to piss it off and like irritate it. You actually want to release the band in the thigh region. All right. So please do not rub over that outside part of the knee area. All right. So tip 5 was recovery. So now coming up next, guys, I'm going to share with you the single best strategy that I've been implementing with the runners I work with who have IT band pain, that get them to not only the start line of their dream marathon, but get them crossing the finish line happy and taking that like post-race selfie with that medal in hand. But before I do that, if this training has been eye-opening to you, if you are surprised that you are not like preordained to get IT band syndrome, and like you've lost all hope that you can ever train for a marathon, because your IT band is going to come back, your pain's going to come back, we need to get the word out to more runners like you that there is a way to do this, and we can do it the right way. So one way we can do that is by you just hitting that like button. If you're watching this on YouTube, that's going to allow me to continue creating content like this that will allow more runners to continue doing the thing that we love, which is lifelong injury-free running and preventing IT band pain. So it would mean the world to me if you could just hit that like button, please, and thank you. Now, the single best strategy that will help you finish marathon training so you don't have to drop out of your goal race. Trust me, this has been something that I've tried with over 10 runners now this past year and has worked wonders. It is tip number 6, kind of that race strategy bucket that we have, is consider a run, walk, run strategy. So I think of runners like Sandra, I think of Stephanie, who reached out to me within 2 months of their goal races, thinking that they would either have to defer their races another year, but they got help. They needed to run their marathon. So for Sandra, it was the New York City Marathon, and for Stephanie, it was the Disney Marathon. And both of them went on to run their dream goal race of theirs without having to stop training because they had this specific structured run and strength plans that matched exactly where they were in their IT band recovery process. So they didn't need to actually stop running, defer their race, or just hope and pray that like after a couple of weeks off of running that their body would be able to run the marathon distance. And I implemented a structured run walk strategy that allowed their IT band to recover during their runs a little from like the repetitive motion of running and allow them to actually continue training for the marathon. So they didn't go into the marathon, because I've heard this story so many times by others. And I've even had runners like reach out about our program who tell me like, hey, I got this IT band pain and my marathon's in like 3 weeks from now, or it's in 4 weeks from now. And they're like, yeah, I'm having so much pain. I'm just going to like do some swimming and then I'm just going to like run the marathon. Yeah, that I really would not recommend that strategy to you guys. Just because you're really playing Russian roulette, honestly, that on that 26.2 mile day, everything's going to come together. Your body hasn't run in so long, but now it's going to be able to run a marathon. I went into detail on the run, walk, run strategy with the mecca of all run, walk, run. Really the founding father, if you will, Jeff Galloway. So you can listen to my previous episode with him in episode 215 on the Healthy Runner podcast, in which Jeff really talks about like how he came up with the strategy. And this has been something that I actually implemented as a rehab professional before even learning about the Galloway method and, Jeff's book and everything, all the good stuff that he offers runners. And I've really come up with a structured way in how I like to have my runners keep running or return to run with IT band pain. So, we get a lot of runners who like went to rehab, let's say, and now they've been released and discharged and they are ready to return running. And their doctor or their physical therapist told them like, yeah, just get back into running or return to running. So I actually have a full structured plan of exactly the intervals that I like to program out for the majority of my runners, and have given you like the probably the successful strategy that's going to work for like 90% of you listening to this right now. And that is in our return to run blueprint. So if you want to get that, it's literally structured out for you. You can screenshot it, print it out, PDF of like exactly what you need to do for your running to have this progressive load and to allow the structured walk run intervals. So just go to learn.sparkhealthyrunner.com/return to run. Get that download. Super, super helpful. If you're a rehab professional listening to this right now, you're going to want to download that and use it for your patients who have IT band syndrome. And hopefully, you can please tell them to not stop running for any given number of weeks. Honestly, for the majority of, I can literally count on one hand in my 20-year history in working with runners with IT band syndrome that I've had anyone shut down running for, and I think it was literally 3 or 4 days. So it is very, very rare that you will need to stop running with this condition. But the run, walk, run strategy can be like life changing, honestly, in getting you to the marathon and getting you to the finish line. So that is critical. I want you to consider it. Not everyone needs it, but in the right circumstance, like I mentioned with Stephanie before, Sandra before, if you're in that predicament and it's like, within 2 months of your marathon, that's going to be the best strategy for you to actually stay training consistently at minimum 3 to 4 runs per week, because that's what we need for marathon training. And it's going to allow you to get the time on your feet to be out there for like 3 hours and know and feel confident that, hey, I can be out there for 3, 4, or 5 hours on marathon day. Then implement the run, walk, run strategy. All right. Get the download of the Return to Run blueprint and implement that. But it's not for every runner. So I'm not telling you like you're going to need to do that, but it's a helpful tool in that toolbox if you actually want to complete the race. And heck, man, we pay a lot of money for these races, right? And if you have a dream and it's been like you put in for a lottery and it's like the only time you can run Chicago, or it might be the only time you're going to run New York, or the only time you're going to run Berlin, right? Like, you got to, right? If these are the cards you're dealt with, or if you've like always, every time you train for a marathon, get IT band syndrome. And let's say you've worked with a coach before and you feel like the programming is like really good. And let's say you've done strength training before, right? Because I talked about those are like the big key things that you need to implement. Then consider honestly doing a run, walk, run strategy. And sometimes it doesn't need to be, it doesn't need to be like 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off, and you're constantly like, there are many runners I work with that do 4 minutes of running and then you follow up with 30 seconds of walking. You'll be surprised like how quickly 30 seconds goes by. So you're running for the majority of the time, or even doing 5 minutes of running, 30-second walk. But just that 30 seconds is like amazing that it can actually decrease the stress on that IT band. All right. So let's recap, guys. What we learned today. In this training, we covered 6 tips to prevent IT band pain during marathon training. Tip number 1 was positive mindset, that IT band is 100% preventable, that you need to take ownership, you need to learn, you need to plan, and you need to prevent, and it can be prevented. Tip 2, strengthen the glutes. Nice how I get excited when I say that. Tip 3, marathon training plan is progressive. You need to watch your mileage, your speed, and the elevation, specifically downhill running, descending elevations, right? And you need to make sure the marathon training plan is appropriate for your current fitness and not your goal time. Tip 4, fuel early and often before, during, and after your runs. Tip 5, stop stretching the IT band and start releasing it. Tip 6 is to consider a run, walk, run strategy. All right. Those fit into our 6 buckets so nicely, don't they? Don't forget, guys, get your free download of IT band syndrome ebook that contains bonus video content with specific actionable exercises on how to overcome these conditions. And I can't even believe I didn't mention it earlier. We also have a marathon training blueprint with 5 or 6 different marathon training specific content that we've done in the past. We've compiled them all, put them all into one download. So if you're new to marathon training and you want to know beginner marathon training, you want to know advanced marathon training, you want to know nutrition for marathon training, you want to know like tips to avoid the common mistakes of marathon training, all of that is in our marathon download as well. So we have a ton of free resources for you guys. That's another one that, again, if you're listening to this and you got a marathon on the mind, then you're going to want to check that out. And guys, actually, I almost totally forgot, just a little update on business side, coaching side of things, that we are going to be launching a Spark Healthy Runner Marathon Mania open enrollment for fall marathon coaching that's going to kick off June 1st. All right. So mark it on your calendar, June 1st. If you are really wanting to crush your fall marathon, whether you're training for the Wine Glass Marathon like I am this year, or you're running Cape Cod like I did last year, you're running Hartford, done that one, you're running Berlin, Chicago. 2 years I couldn't get into that lottery, but one day I will run Chicago. Or you're running New York, right? You're doing Marine Corps, you're doing Philly, any of those fall marathons, and you actually want to get a structured run plan, strength training for running that I've developed, right, to help prevent things like IT band syndrome, and you want the nutritional support, guidance, structure, all of that, then keep an eye out. We're going to be doing a launch June 1st. Okay. We're going to open it up for 1 week, and it's going to basically be, all of enrollment pretty much for that week. We're going to be, locking people in and getting them to work with one of our coaches or myself. And, we're going to be working with those individuals for a 4-month time block. So keep your eyes open for that. And, if you want to get guidance from our team, we'd love to work with you. So you can apply for that to see if you are a good fit to work with our team. So now remember, guys, there are 6 parts for you to grow in your running journey that need to be optimized to run strong and last long. What are those parts? Mindset, strength training, run plan, nutrition, recovery, and race strategy. And when you execute Spark Healthy Runner's 6-step plan for treating IT band syndrome, you'll not only get rid of your stubborn knee pain, but you're going to feel more confident in getting stronger and faster, and you'll stay healthy and enjoy the process of running again. And you may be thinking that you can't train for a marathon because your body's just not meant to run 26.2 miles. And that is what Dawn thought before she signed up to work with me within our signature Spark Healthy Runner 101 coaching program. Dawn didn't run for 5 years due to IT band issues. And after working together for 16 weeks, she not only got back into consistent running 4 days a week, but then she went on to train for her first ever marathon at the London Marathon, which was so special for her. She actually lives in London, so it was like her hometown marathon, and it was such a delight to be able to see her run that for such a great cause. Or Kristen, who was desperate when she reached out with IT band pain after a shortened marathon training block, training for her first ever marathon. And we not only got her to the start line of the New York City Marathon, but she raced the whole course, actually executed a great race strategy, by the way, which is a challenging course, right? We got the bridges, we got some downhill, right? So as we talked about before with IT band syndrome, this is not a course that is great, right? For those with IT band syndrome, but she conquered her goals all pain-free. Or Becca, who is a younger runner in her 20s and had numerous cases of IT band issues. And she was like desperate to be able to get through a training cycle without getting injured. And I provided Becca with the mobility, strength exercises to get stronger in the areas that were causing her pain. And she not only had no pain in a little over a month, but then went on to run the Disney Marathon, and then the Berlin Marathon the following fall, and then the Disney Marathon again this past January, in which I was able to actually meet her in person when we both finished, which was super cool. She lives down in Florida. I'm up in Connecticut. So it was great to meet her in person. Or I also think of runners, like I mentioned before, Sandra, Stephanie, who reached out with me within 2 months of their goal races, thinking like they're going to have to defer their races to another year, but they got help. They needed to run their marathon. So these are just like 5 examples from the hundreds and hundreds of runners who have implemented the Spark method of overcoming IT band syndrome and preventing it to grow as a runner. And it's been really great sharing with you this injury prevention strategies today. Like I said, my name is Dr. Duane Scotti, and my mission is to save the lives of runners everywhere by allowing them to enjoy lifelong injury-free running. And I'm the founder of Spark Healthy Runner. And I really thank you for tuning in today, to listening to this. And if you want to fast track your recovery and get clarity and focus like Dawn, Kristen, Becca, Stephanie, Sandra did, you can learn more about our Spark Healthy Runner signature coaching program by just going to learn.sparkhealthyrunner.com/coaching. And lastly, guys, if this was helpful for you and you enjoyed this, do me a favor, like copy the link wherever you're listening to it. Share it with a runner you know who is struggling with IT band syndrome, or who told you they can't run a marathon like you can because their knee hurts every time they try to train for a marathon. Like, copy this, share it with them, because we need to get this out to more runners within our community and educate them that there is a way that we can prevent this. Like I said, this is 100% preventable. So I'm trying to save runners from like the frustration of having to actually deal with IT band syndrome so they can keep running for stress relief, right? Keep doing the activity that we love to do, and they don't have to go to a healthcare provider who's just going to tell them to like stop running. Um, I want our community to enjoy lifelong injury-free running. So thank you in advance for copying this link, sharing it with a runner who needs to hear this. You can really help change their lives. As always, let's maintain a strong mind, strong body, and let's just keep on running. Until next time.